The signal that should not have been sent, 770 words third person simple English, the sky above Corel 3 was filled with smoke, fires burned through the forest edges and broken metal lay scattered across the ground. Tall, thin creatures called the Corellians ran through the dirt, fleeing as loud explosions echoed behind them. Their small planet had never seen war. They were scientists, builders and healers, not fighters, but now they were being hunted. A massive fleet of unknown warships had entered their space 3 days ago. Without warning, the ships attacked their cities. Communications were jammed. Their leaders were captured. No warning, no explanation. Just destruction. High in the mountains, one of the last hidden outposts still had power. Inside it, a tall Corellian named Rico stared at the console, hands shaking. "We must send it," he whispered to the others. An old female beside him, Laura, frowned. "To Earth? Do you know what that could bring?" "I know what will happen if we do nothing," Rico said. "We will vanish. All of us. Earth helped others before. They are strong. Maybe too strong. But now, they are our only hope." Laura hesitated. She had heard the stories. Earth, the death world. A planet where storms tore cities apart, where creatures with sharp teeth roamed forests, and where the dominant species, humans, thrived in violence. Rico didn't care about the warnings. He tapped the last buttons and pressed send. A message burst through space, bouncing across relay stations that still worked. The simple signal held no lies. Corel 3 under attack. Unknown enemy fleet. All defenses failing. This is a distress call to Earth. We beg for help. Then silence. Far across the stars, inside a massive orbital command station around Earth, a low beep lit up a black screen. A human officer looked up from his coffee. "Another one," he muttered. He read the message once, then again. The words were short, but the signal was real. He didn't recognize the planet's name. He forwarded it to High Command with 2 words, priority alert. 3 hours later, inside Earth's strategic war room, 10 high-ranking generals and admirals stood around a glowing table. Admiral West spoke first. "Corel 3. No previous contact. No treaties. But this signal was clear." "Trap?" asked one general. "Possibly," West said. "But if it's not, we're watching a peaceful race get wiped out." One voice cut through the room. It was General Lane, commander of the Deathworlder division, the most feared military force Earth had ever built. "We don't wait," Lane said. "We send the fleet." Silence followed. "But Earth isn't at war," another officer said. Lane looked at him and replied, "We are now." In the dark hangars of Mars orbit, enormous shapes began to move. Black ships with sharp angles powered up, their red lights glowing to life. These were not peaceful aid ships. These were war machines, built for survival, made for destruction. Each was crewed by soldiers who trained in Earth's worst places, death jungles, frozen lands, burning deserts. They were called the Deathworlders, and when they moved, the galaxy noticed. Back on Corel 3, Rico sat by the outpost window. He had not eaten in 2 days. No reply had come. Maybe Earth didn't hear. Maybe they ignored it. Maybe the stories were true, humans didn't care. Then he saw the sky burn. Dozens of bright lights streaked through the clouds, fast, sharp, and unlike anything the Corellians had ever seen. As they roared across the atmosphere, something in Rico's chest changed. Hope? Fear? He didn't know what. Laura stepped beside him. Did Earth answer? Rico stood slowly, eyes wide. "No," he whispered. Earth didn't answer. It responded. Asterisk. The Deathworlders make planet fall. 770 words third person simple English. The warships from Earth didn't slow down as they entered Corel 3 sky. Instead, they burned through the clouds like fire slicing through paper. The enemy fleet, which had been hunting the Corellians for days, immediately turned their sensors toward the incoming storm, but it was too late. The lead Earthship, Iron Vow, released a piercing sonic blast that shattered the sky. It wasn't just sound, it was a weapon. The nearest enemy cruiser crumbled in midair before it could fire a shot. On the surface, Rico stood frozen with the others as the Earthships formed a wall in the sky. Then came the dropships, sharp, black vessels that shot down to the ground. Like falling stars, the first landed just outside the mountain outpost. Steam hissed. Dust rose. The door opened with a loud, metallic groan. A squad of humans stepped out. Their armor was thick, shaped like the bones of ancient creatures. Each one carried a weapon longer than a Corellian's arm. Their eyes scanned everything, glowing slightly behind their helmets. One of them stepped forward. He removed his helmet and looked at the Corellians. He was tall and built like solid rock. His face had lines that showed both age and experience. "I'm Commander Holt of the Earth Deathworlder Division," he said. His voice was calm but cold. "Who sent the signal?" Rico stepped forward, legs shaking. I did." Holt studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod. "Good," Holt said. "Then we know who to thank when we break their fleet in half." Across Corel 3, Earth's forces hit the ground in waves. Deathworlder squads moved with perfect speed. They didn't hide. They didn't run. They pushed forward, hitting enemy positions with precision strikes. The unknown attackers, large and armored, tried to regroup, but they were used to soft targets, not humans. One Deathworlder team surrounded an enemy tank-like machine. The leader gave one signal, and his team moved in a blur. Two soldiers rolled under the tank, planted charges, and rolled back out before the enemy even saw them. Boom, the machine exploded in a tower of fire. In another region, a Deathworlder named MIA fought hand-to-hand with one of the giant enemy soldiers. It was over 8 feet tall and wore spiked armor. She was half its size. She broke its arm with one strike, then its knee, then she ripped its helmet off and ended the fight. Watching from the cliffs, Rico could barely breathe. The Corellians were builders, thinkers. They had no concept of war like this, but Earth. Earth understood it deeply. "These people," Lura said softly beside him, "are not here to help. They are here to end this." Inside one of the enemy command ships, panic was growing. "We didn't think Earth would respond this fast," one officer shouted. "They weren't even part of the Alliance." Another voice replied, "Then why are their elite forces here? Why are their ships faster than ours?" The command leader slammed his fist on the table. "Because we poked the one species that never forgets where it came from." Back on the surface, Holt stood before a burning battlefield. His second-in-command approached. "We've cleared the southern valley. The enemy is pulling back." Holt nodded. "They'll regroup. And when they do, we crush them." He looked up at the night sky. "Send the message back to Earth. Tell them the Deathworlders are on the ground. Operation Firestorm has begun." In the outpost, Rico watched a human soldier give a young Corellian child a bottle of water. The soldier smiled. The child hesitated, then smiled back. It was a strange moment. "A quiet one. They fight like monsters," Lura whispered, "but they care like healers." Rico nodded slowly. "That's what makes them terrifying," he said. "They are not only strong, they choose when to be kind." He turned to the sky again, where more dropships descended, "And today, they chose us." Asterisk. The enemy tries to run, 770 words third-person simple English. In the northern desert of Corel 3, the enemy troops were falling back. Their armor was strong, their weapons advanced, but nothing seemed to stop the humans. The Deathworlders fought like storms with faces, like walking disasters that could not be slowed. Every time the enemy tried to regroup, Earth's fleet struck again. From the skies, Iron Vow dropped railfire across the battlefield. Lightning-like streaks of energy burned holes into the ground, destroying enemy tanks before they could aim. The alien commander, a grayscaled creature with 6 eyes, shouted into the war room, "Retreat. Form a shield line. We must get off this planet before more arrive." But there was no more time. From orbit, Earth's second wave had arrived. 3 more warships, twice the size of Iron Vow, appeared above Corel 3. Their names were simple and terrifying: Black Spear, Stormgate, and Echo Wrath. Each ship carried hundreds of Deathworlders. Each ship was ready to make sure this war never happened again. On the ground, Rico stood near a human mobile command base. It looked like a walking building made of black steel, constantly humming and scanning the skies. Commander Holt motioned him inside. "You need to see this," Holt said. Inside, a hologram showed the enemy fleet trying to escape the system. Dozens of small cruisers turned toward space. The remaining battleships moved slower, trying to cover the retreat. "We expected this," Holt said. "That's why we brought the net." "The net?" Rico asked. Holt tapped a button. High above the planet, a hidden Earth fleet decloaked. It had been waiting, silent and still, far beyond the moons. The moment the enemy ships tried to jump away, the net-activated, energy fields locked space in a cage. No ships could enter hyperspace. No escape. No retreat, they are trapped, Holt said calmly. Rico stared at the display, blinking. Why did you wait? Why not destroy them already? Holt gave a small smile. Because panic makes them stupid. And stupid enemies make easy targets. Back in the enemy command ship, chaos grew worse. They've cut off our exit. Our drives are offline, trapped in system space. We underestimated them. We thought they were just violent savages, the command leader turned sharply. No. We didn't underestimate them. We forgot who they are. This is Earth. This is Deathworld logic. They give peace, or they give extinction. On the surface, Deathworlder troops pushed toward the main enemy bunker. They moved in silence. No shouting. No wasted breath, just perfect coordination. A human soldier named Dale led a small squad through the side valley. His boots crushed broken metal underfoot as he motioned for his team to take positions. Ahead was a shield dome, glowing red and pulsing with heat. Dale crouched and pulled a small orb from his belt. He pressed one button and whispered, "Breaker." The orb floated forward, pulsing quietly. When it touched the shield, the entire dome flickered. 1 second. 2 seconds. Snap, the shield vanished. His team surged forward like shadows. 10 enemy guards went down in 6 seconds. The bunker was breached. From the mountain outpost, Lura watched the battlefield reports come in. Corellians had no idea how to read war maps before. But now, she learned quickly. She saw the red enemy zones shrink hour by hour. She turned to Rico, who sat near the human communication table. Do you think they'll stop once the battle is won? She asked. Rico shook his head slowly. Humans don't win wars. They end them. Completely. Lura looked worried. And when there are no enemies left? Rico looked up at the sky. Then they go home. As night fell over Corel 3, the last remaining enemy units huddled in the forest edge. Their weapons were low on charge. Their leaders had stopped sending orders. They could only hear one sound now: boots, human boots, marching closer. Louder. Stronger, and in the lead, Commander Holt. He raised his weapon, looked down the line of the last defenders, and said just one thing: you started this. We finish it. Then the forest lit up with blue fire. The fire ends, but Earth does not forget. 770 words. Third person simple English. The battle was over by sunrise. Smoke rose from the deep valleys, and silence returned to the sky. What was once a burning battlefield now looked like a graveyard of metal and ash. The enemy fleet was gone, destroyed in orbit, broken on the ground, or surrendered by force. Human soldiers moved across the area with discipline. They marked wreckage. They searched for any traps. They helped the wounded, both human and Corellian. Commander Holt stood on a high ridge, looking down at the battlefield. His armor was scratched. His eyes were tired. But his voice was steady as he spoke into the comms. Mission complete. All hostiles neutralized. We stay for cleanup and stabilization. Behind him, dozens of Deathworlder squads were already forming. Secure zones. They didn't celebrate. They didn't cheer. These were not soldiers who enjoyed war. They were trained to end it fast. In the ruins of the mountain outpost, Rico walked slowly through the hallway. Everything felt strange now. The fear that had filled the air for days was gone, replaced by quiet. Almost too quiet. He stepped outside, blinking at the sun. Human engineers were repairing the outpost systems. 2 were helping a young Corellian fix a broken water pump. Another group built shelter domes nearby. Lura sat near a supply crate, watching. They brought war, she said, but also blankets and food. Rico nodded. That's what they do. They destroy what's evil and protect what remains. Lura frowned. But they are still dangerous. Rico sighed. Yes. Because they remember what it means to be hunted. For above Corel 3, the Earth fleet floated in silence. The warships didn't leave right away. Instead, they held their position across the sky like silent guardians. Their hulls reflected the sunlight like knives in space, inside Stormgate. A report was being prepared for Earth Command. Unknown species attacked peaceful world. Earth responded with full Deathworlder deployment. Enemy eliminated. Civilian lives saved. Corel 3 now under Earth protection until local safety is restored. General Lane read the message. He nodded once, send it. Then he turned to the officer beside him and tell our diplomats, Corel 3 is now on the priority list. No one touches this world again. 3 days passed, Corellian families came out of hiding. Many had never seen humans before. They stared with wide eyes as tall, armored soldiers walked past, some with weapons, others handing out food packets. Children were curious. They touched the metal boots of soldiers. One small child handed a flower to a female Deathworlder. She looked confused at first, then smiled. The child smiled back. At the command post, Rico sat across from Commander Holt. You didn't have to come, Rico said. We are not even part of the Galactic Alliance. Earth gained nothing from helping us. Holt leaned forward, voice calm. Maybe we didn't come for gain. Maybe we came because no one else would. He tapped the table. Let me tell you something about Earth. We were ignored once. Long ago. When Earth was weak. When humans were just learning how to survive in space. He looked directly into Rico's eyes. No one answered our distress calls. So we made a promise no one would ever feel that way again. Rico stayed quiet for a long moment, then he whispered, thank you. Holt stood. Don't thank me. Thank the ones who trained in the deserts, in the storms, in the wilds of Earth. Thank the ones who built ships for war, not for show. We are Deathworlders. We answer with fire, but only when we must. At the landing zone, the first group of Deathworlders began boarding their ships. The wind was light. The ground was quiet. No more gunfire. No more screams, just calm. One Corellian elder walked up to the boarding ramp and bowed deeply. A human soldier gave a small nod in return before disappearing into the ship. Above them, Earth's warships began to rise, slow and silent. They had come like fire, now they left like a whisper. Back at the outpost, Lura watched the ships leave. Will they return if danger comes again? She asked. Rico nodded. They will. Because Earth never forgets those who called for help. Asterisk. What the galaxy saw and feared, 770 words. Third person simple English. The destruction of the enemy fleet over Corel 3 sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Other species were watching. News of Earth's response spread fast, faster than any official report. The once ignored planet, the so-called Deathworld, had sent its most powerful fleet without hesitation. And they didn't just win, they ended the enemy within days. In the galactic core, inside a grand hall filled with ambassadors from dozens of worlds, silence fell as the message replayed on every screen. Distress call received. Earth responded. Enemy forces neutralized. Civilian lives protected. No action requested in return. The representatives didn't know how to react. Some were shocked, some were frightened. One alien diplomat stood and spoke slowly. Earth responded to a plea for help with full military force and asked for nothing in return. That is not mercy. That is power. Another replied, or maybe it's a warning, to all of us. Back on Corel 3, the human cleanup teams were helping rebuild cities. Deathworlder engineers were repairing water lines, fixing bridges, and teaching Corellians how to defend themselves in the future. But the Deathworlder soldiers remained on high alert. They never walked without weapons, they never removed their armor in public. Even during peace, they stayed ready, because on Earth, peace was only ever temporary. Rico followed Commander Holt to a high ridge overlooking one of the destroyed enemy ships. The twisted metal still smoked. Pieces were being moved by machines as Earth's troops worked quietly below. Holt handed Rico a small black box. What is it? Rico asked. A beacon, Holt said. It's tied to Earth's emergency response grid. If this planet is ever attacked again, you activate that. Earth will know within seconds. Rico stared at the device. It was small, just the size of his hand, but it felt heavy. Not in weight, but in meaning. You trust us with this? Holt looked serious. We trusted you enough to fight for you. We are not here to control. We are here to remind the galaxy, no one touches what Earth protects. On a nearby hill, a young Deathworlder recruit named Toma sat with a Corellian boy. They were drawing shapes in the dirt. Is Earth really scary? The boy asked. Toma smiled under her helmet. Sometimes. But it has oceans. Forest cities filled with lights. And people who protect each other, even if they don't know your name. The boy looked down. I was afraid of humans before. Toma nodded. Most people are. Until they see what we really do. In the orbit above, the last of Earth's fleet prepared to leave. Ironvow would stay behind for a while, just in case. But the rest were needed elsewhere. War was always close somewhere in the stars. Inside Stormgate, General Lane gave one final order before departure: send a message to all known systems. One sentence. Earth heard the call. We answered. We are watching. His officers obeyed, and the galaxy listened. In the far reaches of space, a warlord watched the broadcast of Earth's victory. His clawed hands gripped the arm of his chair. He had been planning to invade a smaller system next week. Now he wasn't so sure. His advisor leaned close. Still want to test the Deathworlders? The warlord growled but said nothing. Sometimes silence means survival. On Corel 3, Rico walked the rebuilt paths of his city. Flowers were blooming again. Markets reopened. Children laughed. He paused near a statue being built in the center square. It showed a Corellian child handing a flower to a human soldier. The artist was still working on the human's face. Rico smiled. It didn't matter what face they used. What mattered was what the soldier represented: protection, sacrifice, and strength. That bowed only to peace. He looked up at the sky, where the last Earth warship shimmered in orbit, and he whispered, "Thank you, Earth. May you never have to come again." Asterisk whispers in the shadows, 770 words third person simple English. While Corel 3 healed under the watch of Earth's last orbiting ship, in the dark corners of the galaxy, fear grew. In secret stations hidden beyond the known star charts, powerful groups gathered to speak of what had happened. They moved too quickly, said one shadowed figure. Earth should not have had time to respond. They were waiting, another replied. Or worse, they've planned for this all along. A third voice, calm but cold, said, it doesn't matter how it happened. What matters is what comes next. Earth just reminded the galaxy why they are feared. If they keep expanding this way, we'll all answer to them. On Corel 3, a celebration was held, not a loud one, not like a victory parade. Corellians didn't celebrate war. But in their own quiet way, they honored the moment. Songs were played across the cities. Lights glowed through the streets. Families came out from hiding for the first time in weeks, and in the main city square, Rico stood before a crowd. He wore simple robes, and beside him stood Commander Holt in his dark armor. The contrast was sharp, one soft, one solid. But together, they told a new story. Rico raised his voice, we called for help. Earth answered. He looked at Holt. They came not for power. Not for control. But to stand between us and death. He turned back to his people. We will never forget. The crowd remained silent for a moment, then gave the traditional Corellian sign of deepest respect, both hands to the heart, eyes closed. Commander Holt nodded once. Then stepped forward. We do not stay long, Holt said. But know this, if you are ever threatened again, if any force dares to harm your people, they will not face you alone. He paused, they'll face us. That night, a final scan of the enemy wreckage was completed. Human engineers confirmed that the attackers had no known origin. Their ships held strange marks. Their tech didn't match any standard fleets. They had no flags, no language patterns that matched known records. It was a mystery, and Earth did not like mysteries. Holt read the final report in silence. They weren't just pirates, he said to his second-in-command. This was a test. A test, she asked. He nodded. Someone sent them to see how Earth would respond. Now they have their answer. On a dark planet far away, a creature watched the footage of Earth's Deathworlders in battle. Its eyes glowed dimly. Its claws clicked against the table, so the old stories were true. It hissed. Another figure stepped forward. Should we stop our plans? The creature growled. No. Earth may be strong. But even Deathworlders bleed. We just have to make them bleed long enough. Back on Corel 3, Lura and Rico walked along a quiet hill. It feels strange, she said softly. We feared we were going to die just days ago. Now we talk about the future. Rico looked at the stars because someone stood up for us. Someone who could have stayed silent. Lura nodded. Do you think Earth will ever come again? He shook his head. Not unless they are needed. They don't like the spotlight. They don't rule. They just watch. She turned to him, and that's the part that scares the others, isn't it? Rico gave a quiet smile. Yes. Because no one truly knows what Earth is capable of, until it's already too late. At dawn, the Iron Vow began its final departure sequence. Engines hummed. Ramps closed. The black hole rose slowly through the sky. Rico stood alone, watching it leave. In his hand, he held the emergency beacon Holt had given him. It glowed faintly, pulsing once every few seconds. A reminder, not a threat, but a promise. High above, in the cold silence of space, the last message was broadcast from Earth's fleet to every listening outpost. The line has been drawn. Harm those who asked for help, and you answer to Earth. Asterisk. The beacon that changed the stars. 770 words. Third person simple English. Months had passed since the Deathworlder fleet left Corel 3. The cities were rebuilt. The forests began to grow back. Children played again in the streets. For many Corellians, the war was already turning into memory, something to remember, but not something to fear. Yet in every home, in every school, in every council chamber, there was one unspoken truth: Earth had changed everything. Rico now served as Corel 3's first ambassador of defense. He walked through the main government building, past peaceful fountains and white stone walls, carrying a report from the human advisor still stationed in orbit. The Iron Vow had left weeks ago, but a small Earth relay station remained, floating quietly above the planet. Rico entered the council room, where Lura and the other leaders waited. They found something, he said, placing the data pad on the table. The room fell silent as the information appeared in front of them. Maps. Star charts. Names of systems recently attacked by unidentified forces. Systems Earth had started quietly protecting. This isn't over, is it? One counselor asked. Rico shook his head. No. What happened to us wasn't a single attack. It was part of something larger. Earth believes someone, or something, is testing the galaxy's defenses. And now, Earth is preparing. Lura leaned forward. Preparing for what? Rico answered, voice steady. A war the rest of the galaxy doesn't know has already started. In the shadows of deep space, hidden fleets began to move, silent ships with strange energy cores. Weapons that left no trace. Worlds disappearing without warning, and above them all, hidden deep in a black nebula, sat a central command, a being who had watched the stars for centuries. It had no name. Only a purpose. To control.to rule.to erase anything that resisted. It looked at a glowing screen. Earth.it remembered. Earth had burned one of its scouting fleets. Earth had responded faster than expected. Earth had revealed weapons far beyond its age, and worst of all, Earth had not blinked. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Deathworlder command held quiet meetings. New protocols were in place. Ships were being upgraded. A silent agreement passed through Earth's highest ranks. No more surprises. No more weakness. If war was coming, then Earth would meet it like it always had, prepared to win or burn trying. General Lane reviewed footage of the Corel 3 operation one last time. He watched the moment the distress beacon reached Earth. The moment the first order was given. The moment the first enemy ship was turned into dust. He whispered to himself, they thought we would hesitate. They thought wrong. Back on Corel 3, Rico walked to the old mountain outpost, the place where the call for help was first sent. It had been turned into a memorial. He stood before a small silver plate, where words were carved in both Corellian and Earth Standard. Here, a voice cried out. And across the stars, someone heard. He stood in silence, holding the beacon in his hand. It still glowed softly, waiting, always ready. A young Corellian boy approached and looked at the beacon. Is that the thing that saved us? He asked. Rico nodded. Not this alone. It only called the storm. But yes, it started everything. The boy looked up at the stars. Will they come back? Rico looked, too. If we ever need them, he said, they'll come again. Not for power. Not for control. but because Earth made a promise long ago. On the other side of the galaxy, a human scout ship entered a distant system. Wreckage floated in orbit. No survivors. No signs of life. The captain sent a coded message, another silent world. Pattern matches the attack on Corel 3. Request permission to investigate further. Back on Earth, the response came quickly. Permission granted. And if you find the enemy, remind them what happens when you awaken a death world. In every dark corner of the galaxy, there was now a new fear, not monsters, not empires, not extinction, but something far simpler. A planet, blue and green, quiet but always watching, and when needed, ready to burn everything that threatened the weak. Earth.